Hi guys, welcome to my first episode of a weekly vlog podcast, a video journal for all of the crafting that I do, all the weaving and spinning and dyeing and knitting, mostly dyeing and knitting these days, and spinning. The loom is kind of on hiatus at the moment. This video, I'll also be talking about things that I'm watching, animes, TV shows. I don't really watch that many movies. I do listen to a lot of podcasts, so I'll be sharing those as well. But yeah, let's get into it. So for my WIPs, I have this shawl that I'm working on. It's one of the gradients that I dyed, and it was one of the first gradients that I really planned out. I really swatched all the colors first. I did a test dip of all the different colors on, I think 50 grams of worsted or something. And just to check how the colors flowed into each other. Of course, when I actually dyed it on the yarn that I wanted to dye it on, I still ran into some issues, which I quickly figured out, finagled my way. I think I added extra yellow to kind of cover up some spots, but yeah. So it fades from a dark teal, a dark blue teal, and it goes through all of the teal colors, goes into a light teal, and then when it joins the yellow, it kind of makes this grassy green. You can't really see it. It's not as smooth on camera. I'm so disappointed. And then it goes to this light orange, fades to orange. And then I love this coral color on the bottom. I'm obsessed with this coral color. I've been dyeing it so much. But yeah, so the pattern is a Clapo-ktus, which is the Clapo-ktus and in the Boomerang shape. So the Clapo-ktus, I don't know if you guys remember, but back in 2004, I want to say, the Clapo-ktus shawl came out, and it was like fire. Everybody was knitting it. And of course, I knit one too. And I just loved the drop stitch effect. Hello, circular, please stay out of the way. Thank you. This drop stitch effect I loved, and the knitting, the actual knitting, is really easy to remember. It's just a 1-row pattern. It's basically a 3x1 rib with some knit through the back loops for these edge knits, and then it's basically a twisted stitch on each side to kind of keep things in place. Anyway, I love this pattern, so when I saw it in the Boomerang shape, I had to knit it. Now, it took me a while to figure out why, what the Boomerang shape was, because when I found the pattern recently, the Boomerang shawl was already not available. You couldn't find it anywhere. So what did I do? I went back to the way back machine, and I found the page, and I found out what I suspected it was, which is it's just a triangle where you don't increase on one side and you increase on the other side, and it just makes this right triangle shape. Basically, you knit to what the half yarn mark is on your yarn, and then you start decreasing. So it's pretty easy. I definitely recommend it. It's getting to be way bigger than I thought it was going to be, which is fine because big shawls are nice and cozy. And it's only gonna get bigger because once I drop all the stitches, it's gonna get longer. Let's see, what other WIPs do I have? Okay, this one. I dyed this yesterday, and I'm really excited about it. I'm tentatively calling it a self-fade yarn. Kind of like self-striping, but it doesn't stripe, it just fades from one color to the next. And fade as in the whole find your fade thing. Basically, every 10 grams or so, it changes colorway. It goes from this light yellow goldy color, this this right here with a little bit of peachy color. And then it goes into this lighter yellow green color, and then goes into this medium teal, and then this darker teal, and then this blue, midnight blue. So it's not going to fade like it's not going to be gradual like a gradient, like where it's super smooth. It's going to be like chunks, but hopefully in between the chunks, they kind of like blend a little. We'll see how it goes. So, oops. So this is dyed as a mirror. So many technical dyeing things. So it's basically dyed as a mirror gradient, but it's not a gradient. It's just a mirror fade-ient. We'll call it a fade-ient. So I'm going to skein this up, split it into 2 balls, and then knit socks 2 at a time, which should be fun because I haven't done that in a while. And so that's all I have like going. I have some spinning that's happening, but I didn't want to take it off the wheel because, you know, it's on the wheel still. So I will include photos in the video somehow, or link to an Instagram post or something. So that one, it was a 4-ounce braid that I dyed in what I essentially am gonna call trash colors, but they're not trash colors. They're actually very pretty. They're like, it's a kitchen sink dye. So I take a bunch of my dyes. If let's say I'm adding blue and it's already at the color I wanted, but I still have some of that pre-made solution left, I'll just pour it all into a bottle, and I'll pour all of the colors into it, like a bunch of different colors. And recently, I think I had 2 of these kitchen sink bottles. And usually these colors are pretty dilute, like they're not super, like the depth is not super high. So I just took 4 ounces of roving and I dyed with it. And when it came out, I was like, this looks like it's 3 different colorways. One was like a brownie purple, and the middle was like a blue, like it was just various blues. And then the last one was like more red blues, purple, duh. I threw all the kitchen sink dyes on it, and then I did a layer of blue just to kind of bring it all together, because one side was super orangey brown, and then the other side was really like purpley. No, one side was yellow, and then the other side was purple. Sorry, the middle section is green. The middle was like super yellow, and then orange, and then the other side was red. So throwing blue on it just kind of tied it all together. I really wish, I'm gonna put a photo in, and that way you guys can see what it looks like. So yeah, I'm spinning that, and it's turning out really well. I decided to spin it single and chain ply it to kind of preserve all of the color changes. I felt like if I spun it like 3 singles and then plied it all together, the colors would get really muddy because they're so different. So it's turning out to be really good. It looks to me, it kind of reminds me of different rocks. Like it's very, I don't want to say earthy, because earthy is like browns and dirt color. This is more like rocks color, like different color rocks, but not quite crystals. They're just like rock. Okay. They're like rocks that you would see on a hike in Southern California. So I'll show you guys that. Maybe next video I'll have it all done and I can show you guys the actual yarn. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have going on. let's talk about finished objects. So it's really weird to talk about finished objects in the first episode because I could talk about like all of the finished objects that I've made since the beginning of time, but I'll just show you guys the most recent one. This is a asymmetrical triangle. No, boomerang. It's a boomerang shaped shawl, and also a gradient because this is another one that I dyed. So this one, oh dear, there's a story behind this dye. So let me just tell you about the shawl real quick. I started on this blue end, and basically you increase one side while decreasing the other, and you increase one side at a very significant rate, which creates this shape. And so what happens is, because even if the gradient is all dyed like evenly, like let's say you had 25 grams of blue, 25 grams of magenta, and 25 grams of yellow, as the shawl gets bigger, the striping will get shorter, it'll get narrower. So you see how the yellow is super narrow. And so I chose to knit the blue side first to get more blue in this. And then, so this is, I love this one. Let me just put it on right now. I love these colors, but of course I got to these colors by accident because this was one of the earlier dyes and I was still kind of getting used to the equipment, stuff like that. So I dyed this in a beautiful, bright yellow, fuchsia, purple, blue colorway. And then when I went to go set it, I didn't put it on the steaming. So instead of using like a steamer tray, I used a steaming rack. Like it's a rack that you're supposed to put something on to steam stuff. So it has it's just like, it's basically 3 rings of metal that are welded to a stand. So the holes are really big. And when I put the yarn on it, some of the yarn like dipped underneath the steaming ring and got into the water and it started bleeding. So we had some colors that bled into the water and then got absorbed into other places, and some places didn't have color anymore or had really weird colors. So I was just like, you know what? And it was mostly in the golds, I think. Anyway, it was really bad. But I really loved the colors I dyed and I just couldn't give it up. So what I did was I dried it, I skeined it up, and then I threw it back in the dye bath and I just did a very light glaze of brown, which is why it has this like antiqued color. And at first, when I started knitting with it, I really didn't like it. I felt like it looked like somebody had spilled coffee all over what I was knitting. But the more I look at it, the more I think it's beautiful. And sometimes that's just how things are. So yeah, I love this. It's really small though, but that's okay. I'll just wear this for the rest of the video. Let's see, what else? Another finished object. It's not really an object. It's really weird because to me, sometimes finishing a project means that I had yarn instead of like an actual thing. Yesterday the day before, I got some dye in from Dharma, some blues. And I feel like blues are really important because it's such a powerful color. Not just the intensity, but just the emotions that it elicits from people. And people just about everybody loves blue or some kind of blue, right? Anyway, so I got these 2 blues in. One is a very warm blue, which is the midnight blue. And the other blue is a very cool blue, Caribbean blue. And both of these are primaries, which means that they have no other colors mixing in them, so they don't break. And so these are the two blues. This is the Midnight, this is the Caribbean. So you can see how different they are. So what happens when you mix different colors with them, they produce like different purples or different greens or whatever. So what I did was I took one of the knitted dye blanks that I have, and I basically did a dip dye, 1/2 blue, this blue, 1/2 the other blue, and then I dip dyed again with yellow, which made these colors. Yeah. And of course it's not perfect, like perfectly spaced, so which is why you see like more blue here, but you can still see like what kind of green it makes. It makes like a very olivey, kind of like foresty, leafy green. Whereas this green, you know, I should hold them this way. They were like this. Very bright, beautiful green. And this green, I am not so hot on. I could definitely see projects and colorways where this fits, but this, I really want to like keep playing with this. What happens when you throw more when you throw more red into it, different kinds of reds. So this color has me very excited. The bad thing is Caribbean blue is a pain in the butt to exhaust and to rinse. So that's my caveat to you guys. It takes a lot of time for it to set properly, but it creates this green. Look at this green, it's so pretty. This was the in-between skein. It was like that. You can't really tell the difference when they're all together though. So yeah, and then so that's what it looks like when those blues mix with yellows. And I used Brilliant Yellow, which is a very clear, I think it's a very true yellow. It doesn't look cool or warm to me, so I like to use that for my mixing. And then so the second color I used was a very warm red, which is Fire Red. And to me, Fire Red doesn't really look warm. It still looks fairly cool to me. However, if you compare it to Deep Magenta, which is definitely a cool red, it's a fuchsia basically, or a magenta. I mean magenta. You definitely feel like Fire Red is way warmer. So Fire Red with Caribbean blue makes this purple. It's not a very impressive purple. It's really more like a really dark, dusty lavender. Yeah, I was not so hot on it. I think also because the blue was so strong that the red is not able to really shine through. So this looks almost like a really dark blue. Anyway, okay, yeah. Whereas this makes a really nice purple. And it's a shame that you can't really see it because the blue did not cover the red as much. And that's not because of the dye itself. It was really more my technique. So it makes this really pretty purple color. And also makes a really nice, like, dark red color. So I'm excited to play with the Midnight Blue plus the Fire Red, and to play with the Caribbean and the yellow. So these are kind of like the winners for this dye swatching adventure. And yeah, I really like swatching this way because you don't get as like technical, mathy. I don't know how to reproduce this color exactly, but I know generally the direction. It's mostly blue with a little bit of red. And this one is mostly blue. This one is a little bit of blue with a lot of yellow. So it's not as accurate as, say, like a dye triangle, which just thinking about dyeing a triangle makes me want to just, no, it's so much work. You have to measure everything, and then you have to make sure everything sets properly. No. I just knit a dye blank, and then I dye one side the color I want, the other side the other color, and then throw some reds and yellows on it and see what we see. So yeah, that's my method of doing it. I'm going to develop some colorways based on these new blues. I already used them to make a silk gradient for my friend, and it's really pretty. I love it. Oh, speaking of midnight blue, so this is the midnight blue. Let's see, we can compare. There are different bases, so that's also a point of difference. So you can get it in the light a bit. So those two blues, pretty similar. Yeah, that's all I have for finished objects. Thank you guys for watching. You can follow me on Instagram at SibylQ and also that's it. Oh, my other Instagram, which is Handweaving Sibyl, but I haven't woven in a long time, so whenever I do, I will post something there. I do have some ideas in mind. I just have to get to the warping board, because I know once I get to the warping board and I put some warp on the board, take it off, and the other parts just kind of fall like dominoes, and I just like get back into the groove. But it's about getting back into the groove. That's the hard part. Oh, now it's getting hot. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will upload another video next week and show you guys what I've been working on. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.